Everyone on YouTube loves flashing revenue screenshots, 10, 50, 100 grand a month. The problem is almost nobody talks about the costs behind those numbers, and that's the only number that matters because it shows you if you're actually building a profitable business or just lighting money on fire. I know this because I've scaled my own AI business from 0 to over 100K a month, and I've lived each stage of that growth, starting lean, then hiring as revenue grew, and now running a full team. The truth is, the expenses at each level explode in most ways people never expect. That's why I want to show you exactly how it plays out across the different stages. Here's how I'll break it down. There are 3 stages. The solo stage, when it was just me, the growth stage around 20K months when I had to start hiring, and the skill stage at 100K with a full team and infrastructure. Each stage forces a completely different set of expenses, and knowing them upfront is critical if you want to scale profitably. This is a real look into the margins, and once you see it, you'll know exactly what it takes to build a business that lasts. So let's start at the very beginning, when it was just me, no team, no overhead, just the bare essentials. This is the solo stage, what I call the lean foundation. And it matters because if you want to build a real agency, you can't treat it like a side hustle. From day one, you have to treat it like a business. Now, here's the important part. Most businesses have layers of extra expenses before they can even get their first client. Think of product development, delivery teams, offices, complicated software. In my case, I run a lead generation business. I get other companies' sales meetings using AI, automation, and cold email. That means I don't need any of those extra expenses. My only cost in the early days was client acquisition itself, paying for the tools and data to send cold emails. And that's exactly why this example is so useful if you're starting out. It's the pure baseline, the minimum you'd need to spend to start signing clients with cold email, which in my view is still the most effective way to land deals when you're just getting started. If you're not familiar with cold email, here's why it's so effective. It lets you reach business owners directly with whatever personalized message you want to send. And that's invaluable when you're trying to land clients. The only bottleneck used to be time, doing the research, writing the copy, tweaking it for every prospect. But with today's AI and automation, that bottleneck is completely gone. You can scrape the data you need, feed it into AI, and generate custom emails automatically. Now, if this sounds interesting and you actually want to build this kind of system yourself, step by step, that's exactly what I teach inside Scaling Systems Society. It's my private community where I show you how to go from 0 to your first client with cold email automation. You'll learn how to pick a niche, build the outreach machine, handle replies, and close deals. Plus you get access to all my scripts, automations, and live Q&As. I'll leave a link below if you want to check it out. Now, obviously, running outreach at that kind of scale comes with costs, and the easiest way to understand them is to break stage 1 into 3 categories: infrastructure, lead costs, and tech stack. First, infrastructure. When I started, I was sending 1,000 emails a day, every business day of the week. That's 20,000 emails a month. But here's the important part about that. You can't just send that volume from one domain, or you'll get flagged as spam and nothing will land in the inbox. To do it safely, you need to spread it out. For me, that meant 20 domains and 40 inboxes, each sending around 25 emails a day. That kept deliverability high and got my message into inboxes instead of spam folders. With a setup like that, and the fact I was sending 4 emails per lead, I was able to reach 5,000 potential buyers directly every single month. Domain costs me about $15 a year, so around $300 total. And inboxes using Sepmail came in at just $350 a month, so around $140 monthly. Second is lead costs. Once you know your volume, you've got to actually find the people to send to. They need to be scraped, validated, and enriched with the right data. For the 5,000 leads I was reaching out each month, that came out to about 4.5 cents per lead, so around $225 monthly. That was enough to keep the pipeline full and make sure I wasn't burning my outreach on bad data. Third is the tech stack. This is the software I use to actually run the system, the part that turned outreach from a manual grind into an automated machine. N8N, which is automation software, connected everything together and fed scraped data into AI. Instantly, my sending platform, which handles inbox rotation and deliverability. Airtable was my lightweight CRM to track leads. Apollo was my source for contact data, and Cal.com is where prospects could book meetings directly into my calendar. With annual subscriptions for each, those tools together ran me about $220 a month. So in total, that put my first month costs at $887, and after that, $587 a month because domains are a yearly expense. For that spend, I was consistently getting in front of 5,000 target buyers every single month. People overcomplicate the stage. The only thing that matters is getting your first paying clients. Everything else, fancy tools, branding, a team, it's just noise. If you can consistently get in front of thousands of potential buyers for under $600 a month, you're already ahead of 99% of people who never even start. So at this stage, the only thing that matters is proving you can land your first clients. But the moment you do, growth introduces a new kind of pressure and it changes the whole cost structure. Stage 1 was all about building the lean foundation. Stage 2 is different. Now the bottleneck isn't costs, it's capacity. You can't do everything yourself forever, and the moment you start delegating, a whole new set of expenses comes into play. This is what I call the growth stage. When I was starting out, for the first 10 or so clients, I charged $2,500 retainers. That was below the market average, but it was very intentional. I had a long-term vision and wanted to build case studies, testimonials, and credibility, because with those in place, raising prices later would be much easier. At that $2,500 level, I was running the same system for clients that I'd built for myself, the same domains, inboxes, scraping, validation, and tech stack. That meant every new client carried the same delivery costs as it did for me. At 8 clients, which put me around $20K a month in revenue, each one cost about $600 a month to deliver. On top of that, I started bringing in help. I hired a VA to handle client reports at around $100 per client, and I brought on a commission-based sales rep through a platform called Closify. They earned 10% of every deal closed, so $250 on a $2,500 retainer. Together, those people costs ate into the margin further, bringing my average profit down per client to around $1,550. That's still around a 60%, which is solid, but it shows how quickly margins can shrink as soon as you add team members. Now, here's why I made those hires anyway. Cold email creates a compounding effect most people don't really expect. The conversations don't all convert right away. They stack over a matter of weeks. So while I was running campaigns for myself and for every client, my calendar started filling with calls. It's the problem you want to have, but it means your biggest bottleneck becomes time, not really money. That's why I brought in a closer, not because I couldn't sell myself, but because I needed an expert to keep conversions consistent while freeing up my own time. And the VA handled client reporting, so I didn't have to spend hours every week filling in reporting frameworks. Both were about buying back my time so I could focus on the growth of my agency. Now here's a bit of advice. If you're at this stage yourself, don't overthink your first hire. It's not about building departments yet. It's about identifying the one area that's draining your time or where you're weakest and then delegating that. For me, that was sales calls and reporting. For you, it might be fulfillment, client communication, or backend admin. The point is, your first hire should give you leverage where it matters most. That's how you break through this stage without burning yourself out. So to put it all together, at $20K a month, I was bringing in strong revenue and still keeping healthy margins, but the picture looks very different from stage 1. Delivery costs, VA support, and commissions all stacked up. That's the reality of growth. More clients don't just mean more revenue, they mean more responsibility and more moving parts. And the bigger you grow, the faster those moving parts start compounding. Now, by this point, the agency was pulling in over 6 figures a month, and at that level, the compounding effect really starts to hit. Costs don't just rise in a straight line, they branch out into whole new categories. This is what I call the skill stage. The first big shift was raising my retainers. Back in stage 2, I kept prices low on purpose. $2,500 retainers because I wanted case studies, testimonials, and credibility. By the time I hit this level, I had all of that in place, which made it easy to more than double my fee to $5,500 per client. But with higher prices comes higher expectations. I couldn't just charge more for the same thing. I had to match it with bigger deliverables. That meant doubling the outreach volume to 2,000 emails a day, which meant scaling infrastructure. For the domains, 80 inboxes, same rules as before. You can't push too much volume through one sender without tanking deliverability. Domains cost me about $15 a year each, so around $600 annually. Spread out, that's about $50 a month. Inboxes came in at $350 each per month, so 80 inboxes ran me about $280 monthly. Lead costs also doubled at 10,000 leads a month with scraping, validation, and enrichment. That came out to about $450 monthly. The tech stack stayed basically the same, around $220 a month for Instantly, N8N, Airtable, Apollo, and Cal.com. Altogether, infrastructure, leads, and tech came to about $950 a month per client, with clients paying $5,500. That left me with a gross margin of $4,550 per client, roughly 83%. Now let's scale it up. At 19 clients, revenue was about 104,500 a month. Delivery costs at 950 per client meant around 18,000 a month. That left about 86,500 of gross margin. On paper that looks incredible, but gross margin is only half the story. Because at this scale I couldn't just lean on contractors and part-time help anymore. Delivery needed people. The first layer of that were still leverage hires. My closer now earning 5% of every deal, $275 on a $5,500 retainer. Across 19 clients, that meant about $5,200 a month in commission. Then there was a VA at around $100 per client for reporting and admin, so roughly $1,900 in total. That immediately chipped into the margin, but it kept operations smooth and gave me back time to focus on growth. But even with that support, campaigns at this scale start to break if there isn't real ownership behind them. That's when I had to move from leverage hires into building a real team. I brought on a full-time overseas talent to keep costs reasonable, but there were still specialists who could own their piece of the business. Fulfillment to keep campaigns running, a copywriter to keep outreach creative and fresh, an automation specialist to keep workflows from breaking, and a project manager to keep clients updated. Together, those 4 hires cost me about 5,000 a month in payroll. So when you add it up, 18,000 in delivery, 5,200 in commissions, 1,900 for the VA, and 5,000 in payroll. About 30,000 a month was going out the door just to keep the machine running. That brought the net margin down to roughly 74,500 a month. Still very healthy, about 71%, but a completely different picture from the headline $100,000 revenue screenshot everyone likes to flex. And that's the real point of this video. As you scale, costs multiply, and if you're not watching margins closely, growth can trick you into thinking you're richer than you really are. But the biggest shift in stage 3 wasn't just more staff, it was also more channels. Hiring kept delivery under control, but if I wanted growth, I had to push beyond cold email. Cold email was still the backbone, but if I wanted to scale further, I couldn't stay dependent on a single acquisition method. So I invested in organic and paid. I built out a YouTube team, so editor and thumbnail designer at about $4,000 a month. I hired a paid ads team at around $2,000 a month, and I put $5,000 a month into ad spend across Meta and Google. That's $11,000 every single month just to play in the content and ads game. Now you can see how quickly the numbers stack. Yes, margins per client looked very strong on paper, but when you layer in payroll, YouTube, ads, and all the fixed infrastructure, the real burn rate at $100K a month was massive. Scaling stopped being about is this profitable and became about can the margins support the machine. That's the real lesson of stage 3. At this level, you're no longer just running an agency, you're running a company. You're not just covering delivery costs anymore, you're covering salaries, growth investments, and the infrastructure of a business that has to keep feeding itself month after month. These screenshots look sexy, but what matters isn't the 100K top line, it's whether you're actually keeping enough to build something that lasts. So to bring this all together, what you've just seen isn't 3 random snapshots, it's the actual progression of costs that come with scaling an agency, and each stage has its own rules. Stage 1 was the lean foundation, just you, the bare essentials, and the discipline to treat it like a business from day one. The lesson here is simple, don't overcomplicate it. For a few $100s a month, you can reach thousands of buyers, and if you can't turn that into paying clients, nothing else really matters. Stage 2 was the growth stage. You proved you can land clients, but now capacity becomes the bottleneck. That's where people costs enter the picture, closers, VAs, and the first hires that buy back your time. The margin is healthy, but it shows you the reality. Revenue scales fast, but so do the moving parts. Ignore that and you'll burn out before you ever hit real momentum. Stage 3 was the skill stage, the 6-figure level where costs don't just add up, they multiply. Full-time staff, new sales channels, content, ads. Suddenly you're not running a side hustle, you're running an actual company. And at this level, the question isn't just, is this profitable? It is, can the margin support the machine month after month? And that's why I'm telling you, most revenue screenshots are meaningless. Top line tells you nothing about sustainability. The real test is whether you can keep margins strong as costs expand and the business shifts from lean to growing to scaling. Now, if you want to build your agency the right way, without guessing all the numbers or learning every lesson the hard way, that's exactly what I break down inside the Scaling System Society. It's the step-by-step roadmap to go from 0 to your first client with the same cold email and automation systems I use to scale past 6 figures. Plus, you'll get my scripts, workflows, and live Q&A so you always know what to do next. I'll leave the link below. Check it out and start building your system today. I'll see you guys inside.